Here is a question worth sitting with. If you built a bomber out of metal, and metal reflects radar, how do you make a metal aircraft invisible? 2 decades and $2 billion to solve that question. And the answer is not what most people think. Not one invention, a sequence of steps that all have to be executed perfectly, every single time, before this aircraft can do what no other aircraft on Earth can do. Get any one of those steps wrong, and the mission does not happen. No backup exists. So let's break it down into 3 parts. The room that holds one temperature forever, the coating that breaks when it rains, and how all of it comes together at the moment of impact. Part 1 starts not on a flight line, but inside a sealed building that most people never see. Walk in, and the first thing you notice is that it does not feel like a military facility at all. More like a laboratory, sealed, silent, air scrubbed of particles that would be harmless anywhere else, but here would destroy guidance systems worth more than most people's homes. And here is what you notice first. The temperature is 68 degrees. Walk back out. Come back tomorrow. Still 68. All year, around the clock, 68 degrees. You might think that is for the people working here. It is not. Ring laser gyros inside each guidance kit begin to drift the moment conditions shift by even a few degrees. And once that drift starts, there is no correcting it mid-mission. A gyro that drifts slightly in this room becomes a weapon that misses by hundreds of feet over the target. So the building holds at 68 degrees without exception. That is not a comfort setting. That is a targeting requirement. Now watch how precise this gets. And I mean precise to the width of a human hair. The guidance section bolts to the nose of each weapon using torque wrenches calibrated to exact specifications. The tolerances on those wrenches are tighter than most people apply to anything in their entire lives. Here's the first sign of how unforgiving this process actually is. Under torque, and the vibration of flight loosens the joint until it fails. Over torque, and the housing cracks. One correct value, no acceptable range around it. Just one number that has to be hit every single time. Inside that guidance section sits an inertial measurement unit whose accelerometers can detect movement smaller than the width of a human hair. That is how sensitive this system is. One slight temperature drift in the assembly building translates directly into a miss of 100 feet over the target. Below that sits a control processor that will eventually translate targeting data from the aircraft into precise commands for 4 independent fins at the tail of the weapon. Each fin moves in steps of 1/10 of a degree. A fin that ceases for half a second during the terminal phase shifts the impact point by 100 feet. So before any weapon leaves this building, every fin gets driven through its full range of motion under power. Then the finished weapon gets weighed to the pound, because the ballistic computer needs exact mass to calculate drop timing. A discrepancy of 5 pounds changes where it lands. Now here is the assumption most people make the first time they see this. A sealed building, torque wrenches, a lab locked at 68 degrees. Surely this thing is basically a bomb waiting to go off. But that assumption is completely wrong. And the reason it is wrong tells you something important about how every other step in this building was designed. Throughout this entire process, the fuse stays completely unpowered and the guidance system runs in diagnostic mode only, which means it cannot arm anything regardless of what happens around it. That thermal battery needs the sustained G-force of ejection from a fast-moving aircraft before it even activates. So on the ground, in this building, on the transport trailer, what you are looking at is essentially a very expensive chunk of metal. It will stay that way until physics forces it to become something else. But physics is patient. Once it clears inspection, it moves to a climate-controlled trailer for the trip to the aircraft. Because the same gyros that needed a temperature-controlled building also need a temperature-controlled journey. So the weapons are ready, torqued and weighed and fin-tested, and completely inert, sitting in climate-controlled trailers, waiting for an aircraft that is nowhere near ready to receive them. But the aircraft is not ready. Not even close. And the reason why takes us into part 2, making $2 billion invisible. You might think getting the aircraft ready is just a matter of fueling it and checking the engines. It is not. What is actually happening here is 2 completely different standards running at the same time. These weapons need to be mechanically correct, inspected to tolerances measured in pounds and fractions of a degree. The aircraft needs something else entirely: electromagnetic invisibility. And if those two standards are not both met simultaneously, the mission does not happen, because there is simply no other aircraft that can be sent in its place. Partial credit does not exist here. Flying with a coating that is 80% right is the same as flying visible. Before anyone else gets near this aircraft, the low observable maintenance team takes over. Their job sounds simple when you say it out loud. Make sure the aircraft does not exist on radar. Look at the outer surface, and what you are actually seeing is billions of microscopic metallic particles suspended in a polymer matrix, coating every single square centimeter of this aircraft. When radar energy hits that surface, those particles resonate at the incoming frequency and convert it into heat instead of bouncing it back. The radar sends out a signal. The signal never comes home. That is stealth, and it works. But here is the problem nobody talks about. This material is fragile in a way that feels almost absurd for something bolted to a military aircraft. Insects at high speed damage it. Rain at altitude damages it. Temperature swings between missions cause it to expand and contract. Think about what that means for a coating whose only job is to have no gaps. Any breach in the surface, anything wider than a few thousandths of an inch, stops absorbing radar energy and starts reflecting it. A reflective patch on a stealth aircraft is not a maintenance issue. It is a location beacon. So if you are on this team, here is what your day actually looks like. Every square inch covered with handheld instruments, not the eye. Seams where panel sections meet get particular attention because the material bridging them has to sit perfectly flush. A ridge or a depression at a seam changes the local radar reflection in ways that show up on an enemy radar operator's screen from hundreds of kilometers away. When the instruments find a problem, and on a working aircraft they always find something, the repair sequence begins. The damaged material gets sanded back in thousandths of an inch. Take too much, and the depression that is left reflects radar as badly as the original damage. The replacement compound gets mixed in small batches because it begins curing the moment the components combine. Apply partially cured material, and you have built a radar reflector instead of a radar absorber. It cures at a controlled temperature. Sanded flush afterward, the repair has to match the surrounding surface to within the thickness of a few sheets of paper. Then the instruments come back out and the measurements start again. Not exactly a quick turnaround. And while all of that is happening, the mechanical systems go through their own inspection. It runs in parallel with the stealth work, equally thorough, equally unforgiving, covering every system this aircraft depends on to get off the ground and stay there. Hydraulics, actuators, electrical buses, all of it checked before a single weapon goes near the aircraft, because a failed actuator and a failed stealth coating produce the same result on mission day. The hydraulics on this aircraft operate at pressures so high that a line failure does not drip. It cuts. What it cuts through depends entirely on what happens to be nearby. 4 independent circuits mean losing 1 or 2 still leaves the aircraft flyable. Lose the 3rd, landing on luck and whatever the 4th circuit has left. If anything fails its check, weapons loading stops. Everything has to be complete before the weapons come anywhere near it. Once every check clears, the loading crews move in. Internal is the only option. No external pylons. No wing-mounted racks. Every weapon goes inside a sealed bay, or it does not go. Each bay door is mass-engineered to open and close along a precisely calculated arc that prevents any edge from creating a radar reflection when the doors are fully closed. Inside sits a rotating drum launcher. Any selected weapon rotates to the release point without the door staying open longer than the release itself takes. Seating between each weapon and the launcher has to be correct, or the weapon cannot receive power or data. Imperfect seating means the mission computer cannot talk to the weapon. A weapon the aircraft cannot talk to? No target. Now here is the part that matters most about how targeting actually works. The weapon does not know where it is going until it absolutely has to. Each weapon loads with its guidance system active, but no destination programmed. That destination stays in the aircraft's mission computer, changeable in flight as the situation evolves, transferring to the weapon only in the final seconds before release. Target can change after takeoff. Targeting data stays off the ground, and the weapon is only ever a weapon for the last few seconds of its existence. Which brings us to part 3, the 8 minutes of complete stillness. With weapons loaded, the crew boards, and what happens next is something most people never think about. Before this aircraft moves a single inch, 8 minutes of complete stillness are required while the navigation systems initialize. The inertial platforms are calculating the Earth's rotation rate to establish an absolute reference frame, and any movement during that process corrupts the calculation and forces a restart. GPS loads next and cross-checks against the inertial solution. Then every control surface runs through its full range under power. This aircraft has no conventional rudder. Directional control comes from asymmetric drag devices at the outer wing sections, surfaces that extend on one side to generate yaw by brute aerodynamic force. If those surfaces do not respond correctly on the ground, they will not respond correctly in flight. Without yaw control, this aircraft cannot be flown. During taxi, the pilot has to think 100 feet ahead. The main landing gear trails that far behind the nose wheel. A turn that looks correct from the cockpit puts the gear off the taxiway edge. At the runway, all 4 throttles go forward simultaneously. Acceleration is immediate. Rotation speed arrives fast, and this aircraft does not linger at that threshold. Past that point, there is no decision left, no abort available, and absolutely no reversing the several thousand individual steps that led to this exact moment on this runway. Across its full 52-meter span, the wing generates enough lift to break free of the runway and the aircraft climbs away. At cruise altitude, flight control computers run continuously, making thousands of corrections every second at a rate no human pilot could ever match. This aircraft was deliberately designed to be aerodynamically unstable, and without those corrections, it departs controlled flight within seconds. The pilots are not flying it, they are managing it. The computers fly. And then comes the moment that everything in that sealed building was actually built for. At the target, weapons bay doors open for the minimum time required. Everything that happened in that building, every torque value, every fin test, every weight measurement, now has exactly one job. Targeting data pushes from the mission computer to the selected weapon in under a second. Receiving it, the weapon confirms its guidance systems are active and releases. Instantly, the thermal battery fires. Guidance comes fully online. Fins deploy and make their first correction within 2 seconds, adjusting for the crosswind the aircraft sensors measured during the approach. From that point, the weapon navigates on its own, trading altitude for lateral displacement, corrections growing smaller and more frequent as the ground approaches, until there is nothing left to correct and nothing left to change. In the final seconds, the fins are moving almost continuously. Adjustments so small they look like vibration rather than control inputs. And then it hits, exactly where the mission computer calculated it would, back in that sealed room where someone held the temperature at 68 degrees. The aircraft is already gone, back to altitude, back to invisible. Days pass before the target country understands how something reached them that their radar never saw. The answer is a building held at 68 degrees, a coating that breaks when it rains, and 8 minutes of complete stillness that nobody ever sees.